Hi, I'm Richard Karn, and you may have seen me on TV talking about the world's #1 expandable garden hose. Well, the brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot is here, and it's a total game changer. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're all done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. What could be better than that? I'll tell you what, an exciting radio-exclusive offer just for you. For a limited time, you can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text WATER to 64,000. That's WATER to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. WATER to 64,000.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from Pocket Hose. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at pockethose.com/terms.
Stop right there. Yeah, you. If you like all things entertainment, current events, or Hollywood, then look no further. Creator to Creators, hosted by director Meosha Bean of Horror Noir, interviews filmmakers and creatives from around the world. Join in on the fun, guest celebrities, and informative information to have as a creator. Hit subscribe and stay connected to Creator to Creators.
Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Creator to Creators today. Today, we have a special guest.
Matt Wolf.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. I think we linked from LinkedIn. Is that correct? LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's how people link sometimes. And happy to have done that. Looks like you've been up to some really great stuff. So congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think so. The power of social media, it's beautiful. It's amazing because it's like you can be across the other side of the world and connect with someone and make something happen. Like literally, that's how my last project I did happened. Yeah. But I just love social media. It's so great. It's so great.
You never know. You never know where a connection can come from.
Exactly. So I read your bio. You are a writer. You mainly do like a lot of, thriller horror genre, which is my absolute favorite. But I'm so curious. And you say you like to do like a lot of like complex characters and really interesting. It's like real, like relatable people. And I totally relate to that. I love that. So I'm just trying to picture baby Matt. Like, where are you from? What was your childhood like? What did that look like?
Sure. So I'm actually from Los Angeles, one of the few, I guess. Yeah. I grew up in Encino in the Valley. So I'm a Valley guy. My email address forever was EncinoMan23 gmail.com if anyone wants to email me. So I loved comedies growing up, and I had a great childhood. My parents were fantastic. I played sports. I went to camp. I had a good group of friends. So I was very lucky. Growing up here in Los Angeles, I also got to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life. For the most part, I went to private school, but I also hung out with a lot of people who went to public school. And even though there are some differences, at the end of the day, people are people. So it was really cool kind of living in both worlds.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I wondered because you in Los Angeles, that you were in like the where everyone like the creative process is like, it lives there, breathes there. So what did you find yourself like getting interested in? Anything like writing or anything creative?
Well, that's where it started for me, is having a love of writing. I didn't really know what I wanted to do for the longest time. Like I said, I was really into sports. And so I went to University of Arizona for college and studied journalism there. But I decided that I didn't want to be like, a traditional journalist. I thought maybe I wanted to get into sports journalism. But, for whatever reason, I never, fully pursued it. But while I was in college and shortly thereafter, I always had ideas for movies. I grew up loving both TV and film, And so I read a bunch of screenplays. I read some screenwriting books. So while I didn't go to school for, film or TV, I think it's kind of just an inherent, in my blood. And so I kind of just decided to pursue, obviously, the most difficult kind of writing, I believe. It's pretty masochistic, but I think certain people are drawn to it, and there's a lot that I love about it. And so that's kind of how it all happened for me. I didn't really grow up with anyone in my family in the industry. I didn't really have a ton of friends whose parents were. So even though I grew up here, I wasn't really immersed in the industry, and I kind of just fell into it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. So you were the odd one in the group. You're like, oh, that's the one that's gonna that chooses this industry.
As well as I do, pretty much everyone out there has written a screenplay or tried or attempted to write something that was really kind of near to them. And so, I kind of took a very non-traditional route and kind of just saying that I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to try and write the films that I want to do and connect with the people I want to connect with, and whatever happens from there kind of happens. That's always been my attitude.
I love that. Just like a go-getter. Like, I love that vibe. That's totally what I like. Just whatever happens, is gonna do it. Like, we'll see. Who knows?
That you learn that you have to be able to take constant rejection. I mean, until you're in it, until you're really pursuing it, as a career and as a business, in addition to the creative aspect of it, you learn a lot over the years, not only about yourself, but about, how people operate in the industry. And it's always fluid too.
Yeah.
So I try and focus on the work. Again, I think it's a combination of the work and kind of who you know and the right timing.
Right. That, who you know in the right timing. Exactly. Coming up with a story or script, is it events that happen around you? Is it just things that you're thinking about? Like how do you get inspiration to write something?
So how it first started is, first of all, I grew up on Jim Carrey, like the biggest Jim Carrey fan during his heyday. And so I just had a deep love of comedy. I think I'm an old soul, so I enjoy all sorts of comedy and stuff like that. But obviously that was like the modern version of it. Then you had like your turn of the century comedies with like the likes of Will Ferrell and others. And so I was drawn to that. I pledged to fraternity. So of course I had a million stories based upon that one experience. There hasn't been like a good, solid college movie in a long time. So I just kind of set out to, write my version of it, kind of what I would want to see, but at the same time, what I thought other people, would enjoy.
Right.
And so that's what really got me hooked. And so that was an amazing experience. And while it's never been produced, and, you'd have to probably revise it for the current times. It was a great experience. Most of the time, the first screenplay that you write is not going to, turn into something big. It certainly can, but it's usually like a stepping stone, and you learn like when to approach certain people and maybe when your material is ready. And then from there, what's kind of really weird is over the years, I kind of went, kind of away from comedy, and I always loved thrillers, ground elevated thrillers for the most part that made me think, and there was a lot of twists and turns. And so slowly, having a passion for that, and then meeting my wife, who was big into the horror genre, I kind of just fell in love and kind of took a different path where, to date, I've kind of had my most successes, with interesting themes and dark themes, but also, still including some humor, and even in some of the darkest stuff. Because there always is, a little bit of levity, even in the darkest stuff.
For sure. That's cool. What a great combination, like that your wife is into it. I love when a woman is into horror. It's not really heard of. I mean, but we're out here. We love it.
I mean, look, I think if there's certainly huge proponents of it. Maybe a lot of women don't outwardly express that they are, but that, like anyone, like a guy, they like to be scared. I think if the characters are good, the idea is great. There's a huge market for it, and obviously enough people love it. But yes, in terms of, people who are more outspoken about it and super active in the genre like you are, I think that's really important because my wife looked at some of the female characters I wrote and really helped a lot. She's a creative executive. She's in development in the industry. And so she really helps me out in a lot of ways.
That's fantastic. That's a great team to have. I mean, I think it's great, and I love hearing that when you're having certain characters. Like I actually, I always wonder, with male writers, like if there's a female character, do you maybe that's to say your story is it's starring a female. Do you go to a female, or would you rather have a female's perspective kind of mold that character or tell you things about, hey, this is what a woman would do in this situation, or you know what I mean? Because I've read articles of people saying, oh, well, there's a lot of men in Hollywood, writing stories for women, and it's like we wouldn't actually do that. But
look, I'm sure there's some men who approach it, in a really authentic. They try to at least approach it in an authentic, way. They may just not have the life experiences, and so maybe, and other times maybe they don't take the time to really understand what a woman would say or how she would go about writing a certain scene or a character. And so I think that as a man, you kind of you do your best. And fortunately, I have a sister, and I've been surrounded by a lot of different women my entire life. So I feel like I have what it takes to at least make a valid effort. But until you show it to some women writers or directors, maybe you don't know for certain. And so, no, it can be tricky, because oftentimes I think we think we know, and in reality we don't.
Right. Yeah. So you're making films and you're writing. Do you ever get to like a point where you have writer's block and you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, or like those moments, how do you get out of that?
I don't know that I personally necessarily believe in writer's block. I feel that sometimes individual, writers' motivation could be lacking, or just the determination to I know there's some writers that write every day. I don't, I don't write every single day as much as I can. Usually I'm writing, something to some degree, even if it's not dialogue. But it can be very difficult at times, especially if certain things, come up in your life to be dedicated. But I think if you're going to make a career of it, it's really important. So I try and write as often as I can, but I also don't beat myself up anymore if, I skip a day or two.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just gives me the ability to think more. And I'm someone who's pretty, introspective and reflective. And so even if it's me just kind of staring out, into no man's land or going on a walk, I think sometimes that unlocks certain things. But I think in order to kind of get out of, if there is a such thing as writer's block, I think, you just continue to go within, what are you most passionate about? What are some of the things that you think you have to say? What are some other things out there that you think other people might like? And then maybe sometimes it just starts with a character or two or a situation. And if you, pay attention close enough to it, it can then, materialize into something much bigger. And then a lot of the time, you can generate a lot of ideas, and for whatever reason, not one of them sticks. And so you kind of go back to a drawing board. But I'm someone who outlines a lot before I sit down and actually, write a screenplay or anything else. And so I at least kind of test the idea out as much as I can and flesh it out as much as I can before I really sit down, so that I think it reduces the odds of, getting stuck. That's just my personal, take on it.
Definitely. That's awesome.
Different.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny. I'm part of this writers group, and I won't say, we read an anthology during COVID, the beginning when it first hit. And, I was one of the people with the group, they helped me figure out the tools of how to do it through Zoom. And I mean, it was an amazing experience, but some of the writers in the group were we were trying to get dates down to let's have this deadline. And everyone's well, I don't know. I'm not really feeling inspired. So everyone's different. You're right. The temperature's different.
Oh, yes. But you have to stick to them. I mean, that's the thing. And everyone's different. I think that, every writer is unique. Obviously, we share some qualities. And look, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's not something that's easy. I don't wake up every day yeah, let's go write. If you pour yourself into it, it takes a lot of energy. But then, obviously, if you're a professional where you're on assignment and you have a deadline, you almost have to find a way. So I think it's totally different if you're saying, I'm going to, write the screenplay for like, I'm going to take 4 or 6 months and write it on spec versus, you got 3 weeks or a month and a half to churn out a draft. It's definitely different. I mean, and so you learn a lot about yourself, and I'm sure that certain writers are cut out for certain situations, and they haven't quite unlocked that yet.
Yeah, definitely. Who's a writer that you're like, yeah, that writer, who inspires you? Like,
well, Aaron Sorkin. I mean, he's really prophetic, and obviously he's done so much, and just his style of writing, it's very character driven, and he can get away writing like a big monologue or an argument or fight scene. He crushes it, and I think he's incredibly talented. He's one of the best.
Nice. Like, I talk to our writers, and a lot of them are like I'm trying to get my stuff sold. I don't know who to go to, where to begin. Like, I have these scripts just sitting here. What do I do?
Well, so I mean, I can only go off of my own experience while also hearing what other people have gone through in the industry. I took a very, like I said, non-traditional path, in the sense that while I've been writing for over 10 years now, during that time, I had also been working in PR and marketing. And so for the majority of that time, I was kind of hustling on the side, writing on nights and weekends, up until, a few years ago. And I knew that because I didn't have necessarily a job inside in the industry, like I wasn't working for, a studio or a talent agency, and I don't have representation, and I'm not necessarily trying to get in a writer's room, that I was going to have to, as primarily a feature writer, even though I have written some stuff in TV, I knew that I was going to have to use my network and my networking abilities to, basically forge relationships.
Right.
Most of them cold, whether cold or through referrals. And I know how difficult it is to get your material read, especially if you don't have a rep. And so I kind of just committed to, using my skills, and, I've made, plenty of mistakes. Maybe I wouldn't even call them mistakes, but just the more you're in it, the more you learn. But like sending your script maybe too early, to someone, like maybe it was a draft too early or something like that. Because with certain individuals and certain companies, you maybe only get one shot. But there's no other way I could have learned that other than, going through it, unless I had someone guiding me the whole time, which I don't. I think other writers are in positions where, they've gotten in on the inside with a certain company or agency. And I think that that's huge. I mean, I think it makes I think it makes the odds a lot better. But that was just the path I took. I kind of did what I did in PR and marketing, and I pursued it. And I pursued the writing outside, but it does, I think, make it more difficult. But again, it's just a matter, I think, of how bad you want it. And if you're a writer, you can't just have like 1 or 2 ideas. You need to keep generating new ideas, all the time, and take meetings and pitch people. And so, again,
pitching
is different. That's kind of my.
That's amazing. I wonder with pitching, like, I mean, this is something big, because the more you did it, the more you do, the better you become. So you have, I mean, did you talk to someone? How do you pitch this project to someone? And, with confidence, you go in there and you're like,
believe in what you're doing, and you have to believe in your idea, even if it ends up getting shot down, you don't end up getting hired for the job, because the reality is you never know how many other writers they're talking to and who they're talking to. So all you can really control is your own situation. So being familiar with whatever material you're pitching, and showing a little bit of yourself, I think is important. I think that's all you have at the end of the day is your abilities, both on paper and who you are as a person. And people are going to take it or they're going to leave it. Very competitive industry. Sometimes people make decisions and it won't make sense to you, and you just have to kind of move on and keep at it. I think you have to really be able to take not take it too personally, and that can be hard for some people. But
have you had, what was the harshest, I don't know, thing someone said without,
I would say that most people, and I don't know if you've had this experience, like most people will hold back from, they'll just ghost you. They won't reply. It's usually how it goes. But if someone were to be harsh, I think someone, tried to say that I, I was pitching them something that they would never make. And before I had outreach to them, I had looked up stuff that they had made, and it made sense for me to, pitch them. And so if anything, it was just more like confusing. Maybe they were having a bad day or something, but I didn't take it too personally. When you don't have a rep giving you inside information, you can only collect, so much information online or from, someone else. And so I try and approach people, professionally, never having sort of expectation, in return. I find that most people are polite. I know there are some that aren't, and that's how it is. That's how it is.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. You have to know how to take rejection in this business. And, I've had a lot of that.
Yeah, half the battle is not quitting.
That's it. That's literally, I'm such a firm believer in you keep watering the seed is going to grow. You're going to see a harvest eventually, maybe not when you want, but eventually. I mean, I remember when I first pitched I pitched maybe like a couple of years ago to Fox, and I was so nervous because it was just for a TV spot or whatever. And, my friend Lucy Cruel, she's an amazing writer, friend of mine. We're going in there and we're like, we got this. And we get there and it's like, cool. You're thinking, oh yeah, I nailed it. But of course, you don't know, you can't read the room. You're not really sure if they like it or not. You're like, maybe, pretty neutral with your expressions. So you're just like, okay. But it was cool. It was a great experience.
Well, the thing is, too, sometimes you have an amazing meeting. You think it went so great, and it ends up being nothing. Vice versa. Sometimes you think it went pretty bad. So the world works in crazy ways. Nothing
crazy
makes
ways.
Sense. If you're trying to resolve, it's very difficult too.
Yeah, it is crazy world. Speaking of crazy, we're living in such I feel like as a creator, and I think in any aspect of your creativity, and where it's expressed to actor, writer, whatever, you should be able to express and tell whatever truth that you want to say, your story. Do you feel like we're living in such a sensitive society where everyone's super it's like a cancel culture, like, oh, if you don't believe this way, and this is what the trend is, write about this or be this, and you're going the opposite.
Right. I feel like, I think there's a lot of love to go around. So I'm a half glass full guy. I think there's a lot of love to go around, but I also believe that we live in a very judgmental society where people are very quick to throw stones, and most of the time it's behind a keyboard or an iPhone. And it's very easy for someone to come down on someone else when they see or hear something, even if they never met them or know anything about them. And so my first response is to at least initially reserve judgment. Mm-hmm. And look, the reality is social media is huge. I actually, while I'm very active on LinkedIn, I have an Instagram account. I don't have a Twitter account. Once in a while I see what people are up to though on Twitter. It's just not a universe that I play a lot in. I think while there's a lot of people doing good, positive things, I also think there's a lot of negativity. And so I try not to get too wrapped up in it. And what's also interesting is because everyone does have access to vocalize their opinion at a moment's notice. I think that's what a lot of people do. Everyone weighs in on everything. Yeah. And I think maybe some people are a little more qualified than others. But even so, I just think we're very quick to, whether you want to say cancel or we're quick to judge people. And it's my personal belief that the moment you start judging people, you close down your heart. But if you come at it from a different angle of appreciating their predicament, whatever they've done, no matter how horrible, you appreciate that something must have happened in their life for them to do that. You don't necessarily say it's okay, and you don't say that that's what I would do, or maybe that's a person I want to associate with at this time, but you don't close your heart down to them. And so I think that people should just develop breathing exercises, and not be so quick to chime in, be the first person to chime in on something. Yeah. And I think it all just plays out how it's supposed to. If someone if someone does something, then, but again, I'm not a celebrity too, so I don't have people, pay attention to my every move. I think when your every move is under a microscope, I think that's a very tough position to be in. Maybe some people wanted that, and then once they have it, ironically enough, they learn that that's not what they want.
Right.
People like the limelight. That's just my perspective on it. I was going to say that in some ways, I think it's great to be a sensitive person.
Yes.
Then, yeah, sure. There's always that line. Are we being too sensitive?
Yeah.
I think we just, in general, we need to be kinder to each other. Period.
Absolutely, 100% agree. I think it's a little bit of I don't know if the industry plays a huge part of that, but it's almost like they perpetuate this. I don't know. It's like they pick and choose what they want to care about and what's okay, what's not okay. And it's like, well, if we want to pick and choose, how about we get everybody? You know what I mean? If we're going to do that, but it's the business.
100%. 100%. I mean, a lot of people are just, they're trend chasers and I don't know if that there's a right or wrong to that. It just kind of is. I think though that while on one level, it's important to acknowledge our differences. I think it's more important that we, celebrate our similarities. And I think that over time kind of does eliminate some of the things that, you were talking about. We should be looking out for everyone's best interest at all times. But that's very difficult to achieve.
Have you been told as a writer, like, what you should write about? Has anyone told you like, hey, this is what's trending. You should talk about trending things, and put you in a box, and you're like, no, this is what I like to write. This is what I'm sticking to. Or
I mean, look, I think that's part of the reason why I don't have representation. I think certain reps, especially managers, are very specific about what they're looking for and what they're expecting out of a writer client.
I see.
I think that I enjoy writing about different subject matters and different genres. At the end of the day, most of it does kind of tend to be a little bit, R-rated and a little bit dark. But again, I think it's touching on relevant cultural, themes, with what I believe to be interesting plots, and that's what kind of enjoys me most. I also put myself out for assignments on other people's projects, so I'm completely open to working on other people's ideas if I think they're really cool. So if someone's paying me to write about a particular subject matter, then I will absolutely work within the confines of that, but I don't have like a manager or a rep telling me that I should be doing this or I need to be doing this.
Right.
I think, I have a pulse on what I like and what I'm good at and what I think plays well and hopefully what other people want to see. But I'm also not writing like, huge, big budget, stuff. It tends to be more indie or mid-level.
That's cool.
Type projects.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think people kind of underestimate indie. I think you can completely make a living and, making indie projects. Like I know a guy who pumps out movies pretty often and they're indie and he's making a living in his small town. I mean, it works for him. That's what he wants to do. And hey, I think that's great. And I just think we have this kind of, I think I was talking to someone the other day and they're like, well, don't you want to be like super famous? I'm just like, but it's not about fame. It's about being able to greenlight your own movie, create what you wanted to create and put it out to the world. You know what I mean? That's not the end all be all, but again, it's the society. It's what we're living in. And
each creator has their own motivation. Some people want the fame. Some people, have a certain, I guess, level of ego. If I could ghostwrite and make X amount of money that I thought was great for a career, I would ghostwrite. I mean,
that's great.
It doesn't really matter, to me, because at the end of the day, I know what I contributed to it. So I'm personally not in it for like awards. I think it's really cool though if you get to that level and people are recognizing that. I think that's spectacular. I think though, if you're a writer trying to make a living, then you do what you can, at least initially, to get that experience and to get those smaller jobs. And if you're any good, I think it kind of just leads to what it leads to on its own. And sure, I think as a writer, you need some help along the way or as a director, but You just got to focus on the work.
That's it. I love that. Which leads me to my question I love to ask everyone. There's a lot of listeners that listens to this podcast, and they're always wondering, advice. What advice would you give to someone that wants to get into writing?
Try writing. Try actually sitting down and completing something, even if it's like a poem or a short film. Because you just learn so much about yourself. You learn if you really have it. And even then it's a fine line, because there's so many different types of writing and creative writing. Like, again, there's some amazing writers out there who just do it for a hobby, or maybe they make a minimal amount of money doing it, but they still love to do it. But I would say if you're a screenwriter or writer trying to make it in the industry, you need to hustle. You need to produce volume. You need to be an idea generator. You need to be someone who I think works well with others. You need to stay open, but at the end of the day, you need to produce pages. That's just the bottom line, and it's a very difficult endeavor. I think for some people, maybe it comes maybe there's some savants out there that can really do it, very quickly and efficiently. I think for most people, it takes more time, not only coming up with the idea, but then fleshing it out and making sure it works. And then, it's crazy because especially for film, it's really got to be 90 or 85 to 120 pages. And so you have to tell the best story that you can in that kind of, wheelhouse, which is not easy to do. And so I think you'll learn, sooner rather than later if you're cut out for it, because not only is it produced, and you have to do something, with that piece of material. Once it's complete, you have to, again, try and get it in people's hands if your goal is to get it made or bought or optioned. And so there's different steps. And for someone who's just starting out, give yourself a chance, be easy on yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Set deadlines if you can, again, just to see if you can stick to it. And you'll know. And so there's a very fine line between people who I think, kind of do it as a hobby, or, and then people who really try and get out of it.
I love that. What a great advice. Are you working on anything currently that you would like to share and share with us about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always working on stuff. I think between my own stuff and other people's.
Nice.
Nothing that I can announce, but I just co-wrote a Bible for a crime drama.
Ooh.
That takes place in Arizona, Mexican border. So it's got a very cool Latin flavor to it.
Love it.
I'm writing with a woman, so she's really been she's been great, fleshing out the women characters, especially because, we were talking about earlier, you want to make sure that you're doing it in an authentic way, and so that's been a really cool experience. I have a couple specs that I wrote that I'm shopping around right now. I pitched on another feature to help rewrite it. Nice. And so you'll find that there's a lot of people, whether directors, producers, other writers, who are in various stages of their projects, and sometimes they need help seeing it through. And so I think if you're a writer looking for work and looking to make a career, again, being open enough to work on other people's ideas and take notes, and I don't know, just ultimately work with other people, I think will increase your chances of getting more work down the road. And so that's the way I see it. It's very difficult now that I have a 2-year-old son. It's very difficult to just sit down and write a whole feature on spec, but I'm not opposed to it. It becomes harder. It becomes harder to do that. So always looking out for new jobs and continuing to generate new ideas.
Definitely. That's awesome. If you weren't a writer, or what do you think you would be doing besides writing?
That's a great question. I mean, I really think maybe some sort of therapist, I guess.
Ooh.
Talking with people maybe about whatever problems or issues they're having, and probably doing more listening than talking, and kind of hearing where they're coming from and help them. Because unfortunately, whether it's mental health or just, issues that come up in people's lives, I think that, a lot of people hold that stuff in, and it's really important to share it with someone, even if it's a stranger. And I think while at first it can be a little unsettling if it's ever with a stranger, there's also something freeing about that, especially if they're going to keep whatever you tell them confidential. I think sometimes just getting it out in the open and talking about it really helps people deal with it. So, some sort of service,
Nice.
Philanthropic sort of thing. I mean, I'd love to do more of that just anyway, in general, even if it's not a full-time thing. So I think the world needs more of that. We just need to be helping each other, out as much as we can.
I love that. Well, I'll definitely book my session.
My sister's a therapist. She already took it. She already took the job. You can just book it with her.
Try it at some point. It's really good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Oh, by the way, where can people find you on social media and follow you on all the platforms?
Sure. Oh my gosh. So I think on Instagram, it's Hungry Like the Wolf with 2 Y's. So 2 Y's and Hungry Like the Wolf. And I'll just throw this out there. My dog is 10 times more famous than I am. He's got 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Jesus.
You'll have a much better time following him than you will me, considering I hardly post. It's at Norman the Pomsky.
I love it.
Pomeranian Husky.
Oh, I love
I'm not on Twitter. I'm not tweeting, but I'm checking out what other people are tweeting. So tweet away, everyone, so I can look once in a while. And hopefully you can find me somewhere on the big screen soon. Got a bunch of stuff in the works. The next step is it being produced. And so fingers crossed, putting good vibes out there. And again, congratulations to you on all that you've done. And maybe we can work together at some point.
I'd love that. Thank you so much again. And yes, we are connected, and we will. I'm sure it'll happen. Well, guys, thank you for listening. And this was a great episode. Until next time, always remember to live, love, laugh. Bye, guys.